ESPN.com.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers, and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Monday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We are back after the weekend. Glad to have you guys on board the show today. As always, you could join the conversation at 609-403-0973 is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Let's set the stage for you guys today. Sixers and Phillies both lose this weekend. I will get you my thoughts on all of that. We will be joined by the Athletics NBA writer, Michael Vorkunov. He's a New Jersey guy, so he'll be joining us to talk about the Sixers and the NBA. Also get his perspective on, this new NBA collective bargaining agreement. I think kind of got shuffled under the weekend with, for a lot of people, the end of a month, the beginning of a new month is a busy time for a lot of people in their businesses. I know that a lot of people were spending a big chunk of their Saturday trying to avoid any April Fool's jokes or shenanigans. So I totally understand why maybe this whole situation with the collective bargaining agreement maybe have gotten overlooked, but there is some specific impacts, not just on how you are going to watch the league moving forward, but on the Sixers as well, because there is something specifically in this CBA that could impact the Sixers and maybe how they build the team moving forward. And coming up in about a little over 40 minutes from now, I will address a national story that if you would have asked me last night what I was talking about today, this would have not been on my docket, on my mind at all. But I'm so disgusted with how people are completely lying about this topic. I'm going to tell you guys the truth coming up in a little over 40 minutes from now about the situation with Angel Reese and the LSU women's basketball team, because we live in a world where almost 10 million people watched the women's national championship game. That's more people than watch an average NBA playoff game. Watch the women's national championship game last night, and instead of talking about the game, we're talking about one athlete making a gesture, which was not crude or illegal or crass, and her responding to people not liking her making the gesture. Because there's a huge lie that's being told about this whole story that I'm going to get to in about 40 minutes from now. But first, I want to get to the Phillies and the Sixers, because the Phillies losing over the weekend, while it's not the end of the tournament, it's not the end of all things. It's definitely not. And I'm well aware of that. But I'm also aware of how you out there feel about this stuff. Listen, I love hanging out with you, the people. I love running into you guys out and about, whether it's at the local drinking establishment, whether it's at the gym, whether it's wherever, local brewery, whatever. There's a lot of great people I run into when I go out and about. And I feel like between running into people, talking to them, social media, I have a pretty good idea of how people are thinking and feeling in general, as a general principle. And I know how Philly fans get. The Philadelphia fan looks at this weekend and says, it's the end of the world. The sky is falling. I mean, I already got Jeff in Ocean City chiming in. It's like, I went out to watch the Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers last night and went home a loser. Like, that's how the Philly sports fan feels right now, because it was a weekend that you went in with a lot of positive vibes and you walked out with a lot of negative. So I'm here to bring a little context to your world. You know, it's like I was trying to explain to somebody on Twitter, which obviously is not the best place to have a conversation with anybody, but I was trying to explain to somebody on Twitter today that you have to have context when it comes to everything, especially talking about sports, because I know that we as a society have been trained to be lazy and just grasp at low-hanging fruit, but I'm not that kind of person. And I hope you listening to me on 97.3 ESPN FM, on 97.3 ESPN mobile app, which is free thanks to First Bank. I hope you are not as, cheap in your mentality. People are worried that the Phillies lost to the Rangers. And I'm here to remind you that the last time that you, a Phillies fan, cared about the Phillies in any capacity like this was 2008 and 2009. On opening day of 2008, the Phillies lost that day 11-6 to the Nationals. They ended up starting the season 8-10. Not a lot of good, positive vibes there. 2008 Phillies started 8-10. And keep in mind, that was the same season that Brad Lidge went perfect in saves. So it certainly wasn't Lidge's fault why they couldn't win games to start that season. 2009, the Phillies started the season 6-8. Furthermore, the 2009 Phillies were outscored in the first 4 games of the season 29-16. Yes, don't drive off the side of the road right now if you're listening on 97.3 ESPN on your radio in your car. They were outscored 29-16 in the first 4 games of the year, the 2009 Phillies. And after going 6-8, they went back to the World Series. So how you start the season has little consequence on how you finish the season. Now, with that being said, I understand that when you watch it as a fan, though, you're looking at it and saying, we sent out Wheeler and Nola, and neither one of them could get the job done. It was an utter embarrassment when it come to that aspect. And, I understand that, especially on Saturday, you felt like the bullpen completely, just completely failed you for 2 straight days. Yesterday, they lose 2-1. It feels more like a natural thing. It feels something that is a lot more organic of a loss. So maybe going into this Yankee series now for the next 3 days, maybe you feel like, listen, you only lost to the Rangers at the end 2-1, and Bailey Falter didn't have a bad game either. I think that the team that you saw yesterday is closer to what you're going to experience for the next 2 months than what you saw on Thursday and Saturday. Here's why. It's becoming very obvious to me, who's someone who watches a lot of baseball. And I tell you guys, listen, I'm the guy up late at night watching the late night games on the West Coast in baseball, watching the late night games on the West Coast in the NBA, watching some late night hockey. I'm that guy, all right? For better or for worse, I'm that guy. I'm up at midnight watching a Giants-Rockies game or watching a LA Clippers, Portland Trailblazers game. I'm that guy. And I can tell you, watching the rest of the baseball league right now, because we'll get to the NBA in just a moment. When I'm watching the rest of baseball, I'm realizing there is a clear distinction between who has made an adjustment to the pitch clock and who has not. And for me, I don't think it's just a pure coincidence that the Phillies, who had not one, not two, three different players out there in the World Baseball Classic who were not part of the team building and development in spring training. Is it really a coincidence that the Phillies are the team 0-3 and took them 3 games to figure out how to best manage the environment of the new baseball rules? If JT Realmuto, Trey Turner, and Kyle Schwarber are 3 of your 5 best players on the team, I think we all can agree that Bryce Harper's the best player. If all things are equal, Trey Turner's probably second. JT Realmuto is third. And then it's Schwarber, Wheeler, Nola, some combination of those guys. That's the best players on your team. And so if 3 of your 5 best players are unavailable for team building, development, and chemistry, and you start the season 0-3, most people would say we should have seen this coming. And that's why I'm not worried. Because last night felt like the Phillies finally stepped back and said, we got the hang of this. But then they ran into a Rangers pitching staff that shut them down. And maybe the Rangers are just a much better team this year than we all anticipated. Maybe, Martin Perez was really good last night, but the bullpen was even better. Their bullpen now for multiple games has been lights out. And I think it's more than just the plethora of left-handed pitchers. I think that you have to give the Rangers a lot of credit for building a very good bullpen that matches up against the Phillies in a way that accommodates who and what they are. So I think that's kind of where my position on the Phillies is right now. I understand that perception is that they are a dumpster fire, but in reality, they're actually not at the end of the rope. Now, if you flip it over to the NBA, because we'll get to the NBA with Mike Vorkunov from The Athletic coming up in about 7 minutes from now. But with the Sixers losing over the weekend, any hope of them climbing up the standings has pretty much gone out the window. Is it completely out of question for them to get to the 2 spot? It's becoming very unlikely. They're now 3 games behind Boston. They have the same number of wins and losses as Boston in the conference standings. There's no way, unless Milwaukee falls apart, that you're going to catch Milwaukee in terms of the conference record, win-loss record. And with 5 games back, you're not getting the 1 seed. You're 3 back of Boston. There's still a slight mathematical change to get the 2 spot. But here's the question I have for you, the Sixer fan. You can chime in at 609-403-0973 or DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. I will ask you, Boston is 2 games behind Milwaukee. You know that you could beat Milwaukee. You've done it twice this year. Split the season series 2-2. How badly do you want Boston to get the 1 seed so you can face Milwaukee in the second round? Because if Boston gets the 1 seed and then Milwaukee becomes 2 and you become 3, you are on track to play the Bucks in the second round instead of the Celtics. And the Celtics will have a matchup in the next round that probably is very unfavorable for them, and that is Cleveland. I think Cleveland is one of the teams in the Eastern Conference that can give Boston a lot of problems because Boston has beaten a lot of people with their depth and athleticism. And Cleveland has tons of athleticism. Not as much depth, but they have athleticism. So do you look at this upcoming week and hope Boston can climb those standings? Something to think about here on a Monday night with the national championship coming up tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Thanks to Westwood One Sports here on 97.3 ESPN FM. You can listen as well on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We'll get deeper into the weeds of the NBA. The playoffs are coming up. Of course, you'll hear all that action here on 97.3 ESPN, your home for the Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, NBA playoffs, NCAA tournament, and more. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Glad to have you on board with me on a Monday night here for the Power Hour on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Harden outside right to the corner. Harris, three-point shot, bottom. Nailed it. Clutch trade.
The Sixers host the Celtics tomorrow. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
Imagine all the possibilities of a $385 million Mega Millions win. You could build your forever home, buy a new luxury car, plus one for all your friends and family. It's just that many millions. Anything can happen in Jersey.
The Dell Technologies semi-annual sale is on, with limited quantity deals on top tech. Save on select PCs powered by the latest 12th gen Intel Core processors like thin and light XPS 13 laptops, Inspiron laptops, and 2-in-1s. Plus, get savings on select accessories, free shipping, and monthly payment options with Dell Preferred Account. Save today by calling 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Attention car buyers. Matt Blatt Kia has 3 questions. Do you have a current vehicle loan or lease? Do you want a low financing rate? Do you want a new ride? If you've answered yes, then stop what you're doing and get to Matt Blatt Kia today. Because if you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released with 0 down and 2.9% financing for 48 months or no payments for 90 days on every 2023 Kia Forte in stock. Have a job clearing $350 per week? Matt Blatt Kia wants to approve you today. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home in a brand new Kia with peace of mind with Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 3/31/23. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Dr. Rick here, with another telltale sign you're turning into your parents, getting particular about your drive-thru order.
Don't pull away yet. I like to check the bag because one time they forgot to give me extra ketchup.
People are waiting.
I'm only seeing 4 nuggets. Wait, nope, there's 5.
Progressive can't help you from becoming your parents, but we can help you compare rates on home insurance with Home Quote Explorer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
It's April, and you know what that means? Taxes are almost due. Jackson Hewitt can help you win tax season. That's the sound of your maximum tax refund. The sound of getting 50% off tax prep. The sound of many of our competitors' prices going up. And the sound of getting to your nearest Jackson Hewitt. Hurry in for 50% off tax prep before this offer expires April 9th. Limited time offer for new clients filing in participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Ad paid for by the Sentinel Group. Attention veterans, active duty military, civilians, and contractors. If you were issued earplugs between 1999 and 2015 and were diagnosed with hearing loss or ringing in the ears, you may be entitled to compensation. The manufacturer of these military earplugs recently paid $9.1 million to resolve claims that their earplugs were defective, potentially exposing service members to damaging sound levels that could have resulted in hearing loss or tinnitus. If you or a loved one were issued earplugs and were diagnosed with tinnitus or hearing loss, don't wait. You fought for this country, and our attorneys want to fight for you. Call 800-678-9751 now for a free legal consultation and to see if you may be eligible to file a claim. Time restrictions may apply, and you pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. So call 800-678-9751 now. Again, 800-678-9751. That's 800-678-9751. 9751.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right. You don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait. Text PLACE to 200-300.
Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, Union, and more. If you love Philly sports, PhillySportsTrips.com has a trip for you. Their team is crazy about Philadelphia sports. PhillySportsTrips.com has been to hundreds of games, traveled to some of the biggest sporting events, and visited stadiums all over the East Coast and beyond. They offer extremely flexible payment plans, and you can reserve trips with a small deposit that can be transferred to any other future trip. They'll work with you to make sure you have a great experience. Visit PhillySportsTrips.com to see where they're going next.
Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Don't forget Game Night being brought to you by my friends over at Jenkins & Sons. One call does it all. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, the plumbing guy, because Jenkins technicians have got you covered from new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, gas furnaces, leak repairs, drain cleaning services. Just call 609-641-6440 and visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. Let's get into the NBA now. A lot to touch on with the Athletics. Mike Vorkunov here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN as the playoff picture is becoming much, much more clear. Mike, how's your Monday going?
It's better than staying up till 3 a.m. to wait for the CBA to be agreed to.
Well, let's start there real quick, because I think that there's two things about this CBA that the average fan has no idea how it's going to impact their lives. And I want to start with this one. The in-season tournament is coming whether we like it or not. So for the average fan out there, Mike, they're going to say, what on earth is an in-season tournament and why should I care?
Well, I think that the second part is also what the NBA is going to try to solve for. The in-season tournament is going to be, a way for the NBA to try to make people care more about the regular season more. I think we're still waiting for all the final intricacies of the tournament itself, but it looks like it's going to end up with some games being played, potentially the Final Four, like in Vegas or something, with a lot of money going to the winning team. And it's, the way I like to think of it is if you follow European soccer at all, they have a bunch of in-season tournaments there aside from the regular seasons for each league. And the NBA has always talked about that model. And I think this is their attempt to try to replicate it as well.
You mentioned the European model. I mean, there are a lot of European stars, guys who are they weren't bred in the AAU model in today's game. But even AAU, I mean, they got 5-6 games in a tournament, sometimes in a day. So the concept of this is not exactly foreign. It's just foreign to the person who watches the NBA, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you don't see that in North American sports, right? You don't see in-season tournaments. The WNBA debuted something like this, I believe it was 2 years ago, but you haven't seen anything like it in baseball or the NHL or the NFL. I think really probably this might be closest to the biggest kind of shakeup for the in-season scheduling for one of those leagues since baseball went to interleague. And that was we're talking about over 20 years ago now. But it'll be interesting. You'll have two teams playing more than 82 games, which is something interesting as we talk about load management and getting players to play more often and just the wear and tear of regular seasons. But I think the biggest question is for the NBA is going to be how do they make it interesting and different enough for fans to really get hooked in, and for fans to care about who wins that tournament.
The other side of the CBA that intrigues me very much, I think it's going to impact a lot of people's favorite team, whether, in our area, there's a lot of Sixers fans, but you got, Knicks fans down here too as well. And that is this, Mike, this situation with the growing revenue pot, the fact that they're growing the revenue pot, they're making more of the money available to the players, how that's going to impact the salary cap. We're not just going to see, in my opinion, Mike, the salaries keep going up. I think you're going to see more teams have the ability to afford to pay more players.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's two parts to this, right? There's the BRI split, which remains the same in this CBA as it did in the previous one, in that roughly 50% goes to the players no matter what. And now you're going to have a bunch of situations, I think, where teams will have the ability to retain their talent more often. You have the veteran extensions going to be going up to 140% of what a player makes going into that contract year, which right now is at 120%. So that might make it easier for a team like the Celtics to retain Jaylen Brown, or for the Spurs to retain, the Hawks to retain DeJounte Murray. I think you're also going to have changes in the rookie extension contracts, and I think that's going to make it probably more likely that teams retain younger players like that. And so I think, yeah, you're right. There's going to be a bunch of ways in this new cap when it does get ratified and should kick in July, where teams have an increased ability to just keep their own players and to make sure that there's maybe less player movement in free agency. But, things will still be very interesting, I think, in the trade market.
Mike Vorkunov, let's get to the Eastern Conference standings. Mike Vorkunov from The Athletic joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, at Mike Vorkunov on Twitter. Sixers, they lose to the Bucks last night, but it's we kind of all knew that they weren't going to get the 1 seed. And, maybe it was more of about, for the Bucks, maybe kind of like finding their way again for themselves more than the Sixers losing the game. But who and what are the Sixers to you coming down the stretch of the season year? Are they just the number 3 team in the Eastern Conference, or is there more to it than that?
I think for seeding, they're probably locked into that number 3 seed. They're 3 games behind the Celtics right now. Both teams have 4 games left to play. That's a tough haul to try to pass them. Not impossible, but it's going to be rough. And they're 2.5 games up on the Cavaliers, and the Cavs have 3 games to go. So you're kind of almost stuck in that number 3 seed in the East, and lined up with probably, I would guess, the Nets as the 3-6 matchup, which isn't bad, but it's also the Nets are looking feisty since the trade for Durant. Their season didn't go completely in the tank after they traded Durant and Kyrie Irving. And so the rest of the regular season, to me, at least, I'm sure Doc Rivers will say something otherwise, but feels a little bit immaterial for the 76ers, right? You know what your seeding is. You just want to get into the playoffs healthy with Embiid and with Harden and with Maxey and all those guys, and make sure that when you get to the first round, everyone's in good shape and no one's hurt, no big lingering issues. And so I think for them, that's the biggest, that's the biggest, most important thing going into the playoffs. And then once the playoffs start, it's all the big questions that have lingered over the 76ers since really the season began.
We know that if things stand as they are right now, the Sixers will play the Nets in the first round, which is probably the best matchup for any team in the first round of the playoffs at this point. So just looking ahead to the second round, just for, entertainment purposes, the Sixers versus the Celtics and the Bucks is what can the Sixers do in those matchups to win a series? Because most people, Mike, they think that the Bucks and Celtics are not just the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference. I've even heard people say that whoever comes out of the Eastern Conference is a lock to win the NBA championship.
I mean, for me, at least, I think the Bucks are the title favorites right now. Not just because they have the best record in the East, and that's the best record in the whole league. I mean, with Giannis, you have, I think, probably the best player in the NBA, a guy who has proven it in the playoffs, and they seem like they're hungry. They seem like they're healthy, most importantly, with Chris Middleton back and playing. And, that to me is the team to beat. So I can understand, that rationale of saying, like, who gets out of the East? might well just be the favorite. Because if you can beat the Bucks, that means you're pretty good yourself, right? It's going to be tough for the 76ers in the second round. Right now, they're looking at a matchup with the Celtics, and that's a good team. And they've had a lot of trouble with them over the last few years in the playoffs too. And I know the Celtics kind of maybe had an unimpressive second half of the season compared to how they started off, but they still have that type of potential where if they are able to kind of hit their ceiling, that might be the best team in basketball too. And that's rough for the 76ers in terms of matchups. They'll probably get past the Nets in the first round, and then we'll see just how good they are, just how good James Harden is in the playoffs as the number 2 type of guy instead of having to carry the whole team, and how this Harden and Embiid pairing can work in the playoffs when they've had a whole season together.
Who is more likely to shake up the apple cart in the postseason? Is it the aforementioned Sixers, or is it those Cleveland Cavaliers?
Oof. I like the Cavs, but I think it's probably the Sixers. Cleveland would have to beat Milwaukee in the second round. Again, a tough task, right? Like, I like Cleveland. I like their team. Donovan Mitchell has really taken them to another level this season. And Darius Garland's good. Evan Mobley has a case for Defensive Player of the Year. But again, the Bucks they do everything better, right? I think the Sixers, like, if the Sixers beat the Celtics, I wouldn't be surprised. If the Cavaliers beat the Bucks, I would be.
Looking at the rest of the Eastern Conference, I know that a lot of people are focused at the top of the standings because of where we are in our area, Mike. But, that 7 through 10 situation right now, it's getting interesting because you could argue that Miami might be the best of those 4 teams, but there's a chance that Miami still doesn't get in the playoffs, which would be absolutely insane the way this plays out.
Oh, man. The funny thing is about those teams in the 7 to 10 range, the only one who's clinched the play-in tournament right now is the Raptors, who have the 9th best record in the East. The Heat and the Hawks, they're angling back and forth for that 7 seed. They're probably not going to get into number 6 or 2 games. At least the Heat are 2 games back of Brooklyn, and the Hawks are 2 games back of the Heat. I could see the Heat missing the playoffs. Their offense this year has looked so broken at times. They're averaging, 109 points per game. I don't have their efficiency numbers, but I don't know if they can score sometimes with everyone else in the East, even the team like the Nets or the Hawks. And, I would not be shocked to see the Heat completely fall out of the playoffs once the play-in tournament is done.
Mike Vorkunov from The Athletic joining us here, covers the NBA, writing about them over with The Athletic. Make sure you get your Athletic subscription for all your NBA coverage. Flipping over to the Western Conference, where the real chaos is there a real favorite in the West? Because I feel like nobody can agree on this point, Mike. I feel like you could turn on a different podcast, a different show, a different network, and someone's going to give you a different answer every time.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have one. It's so hard. I guess, I would throw the caveat. It's the Suns if Durant is healthy. But that's a big caveat, right? Like, he's been hurt for most of the last, what are we going on, 3 months now with 2 different injuries. They're amazing when he's there. And when you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant together with DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul, that to me is the favorite. If they're healthy, if they're not, and if something happens to even, Booker or maybe even Chris Paul, that team is so thin beyond the top 4 guys. You start to wonder if there's just too much atrophy there to get out of the West. I still really like the Nuggets. I think Nikola Jokic is amazing. I think he's got a great case for the MVP, and Jamal Murray looks like maybe he's rounding back into form before he tore his ACL. I'm curious to see what the Kings will be too. I don't know if I'd even go so far to predict them to win 1 round, since right now they'd be matched up with the Warriors, but they've had a lot of stability, and that, De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis combination is really good together, and maybe that's in this West this season, that could be enough for them to win a round or 2. But if I had to guess, I would say the Suns probably, but please do not hold me to that, because that conference is crazy this year.
How badly are the top 3 teams in the West trying and hoping they avoid LeBron and the Lakers?
A lot. I don't know. But the funny thing about the West this year is, where do you go to avoid them? You know, like no seed is safe, right? Like the Lakers could be 5th, they could be 8th if they get in. So it's not easy, you know, you can be like, hey, why don't we just kind of see if we can maneuver into this seed and we'll avoid them. They could be anywhere. There's nowhere for you to go to feel safe anymore. The Clippers are a half game up as the 5 seed on the Lakers and the Pelicans, who are 7 and 8. So it could be anywhere. You really are going to have to wait until the last day of the season, maybe, to just even figure out your own seeding to try to get away from them.
All right, before I let you go, Mike, who should win NBA MVP and why?
Well, they're probably not going to like me in this area, but I would vote for Giannis if I had a vote. You know, he's the best player on the best team. I know the efficiency numbers aren't as great as they usually are for him, but you know, what he's done to carry that team that had Chris Middleton hurt for, I think, like half the season, if not more. He's been playing limited minutes since he came back from the injury. Has been amazing. I think the usage rate this year for Giannis has been not only the highest of his career, at least last I checked, it was number 2 in the league, right? So the things that we say about someone like Luka Doncic, you know, really being the whole offense for a team, at least before Kyrie got there, that was Giannis this whole season pretty much. And obviously he's a great defender. And again, you know, the fact that it's the best team in basketball, you know, they're 5 games better than the 76ers. You know, they're a few games better, probably around 4 games better than the Nuggets, right? That's a big difference. That makes, when it's a title, when it's an MVP race as close as this one, and there's some clear differentiation between the teams involved for the players that are involved, I think that makes a difference. And it's still, you know, Giannis is the best player in basketball right now.
I think Sixer fans are more accepting of that than if you said Jokic at this point.
I think there's a great case for Jokic too. I don't know. It's this thing is gonna be razor thin, and I know probably Sixers fans will be extremely angry if Embiid doesn't win it this year. I don't know. The big arguments I've seen for Embiid are it's finally his turn, and you know, I don't think that's a compelling argument to vote someone MVP.
Well, the problem is that was the argument that was used in the 90s with Jordan. They gave the award to Karl Malone basically because they didn't feel like giving it to Jordan. So it's like, you know, we've seen this before where guys get the award because the voters make some sort of narrative decision instead of who the best player is.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing about the MVP award, like, and especially this year, it's a political award, right? As much as on-court performance matters, it's also a political award, a narrative award. It's people finding reasons to vote for someone as much as how good those guys are in the middle of the season, in the course of the season.
Yeah, it's like I'm currently reading the book by Howard Bryan about Ricky Henderson, and the fact that Ricky kept getting so mad when he wouldn't win the MVP every year, and people were trying to explain him, like, Ricky, you don't hit enough home runs, and Ricky's like, but I'm more valuable. It's like,
I mean, if Ricky was around now, he would have won a lot more MVPs. I think that's for sure.
Well, if Ricky was around now, he'd probably have about 50,000 TikTok and Instagram million followers because of his antics, for goodness sake.
Oh, man, that guy was unique. I loved watching Ricky play.
He's Mike Vorkunov. He covers the NBA for The Athletic. Give him a follow on Twitter and make sure you grab your Athletic subscription for all your NBA coverage as we enter the playoffs just a week and change away. Mike, great stuff today. Appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And my conversation with Mike being brought to you by Jenkins & Sons. Give them a call, 609-641-6440, and visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. Coming up next, we'll check in on the text board, 609-403-0973, and your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And don't forget, another chance for you to qualify for the Eagles trip contest coming up in about 15 minutes from now.
It's the NCAA Championship game tonight, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM. Who'll cut down the nets this season? Keep it locked to 97.3 ESPN to find out.
Way downtown, it's good. Splash City.
It's the NCAA Championship game, brought to you by
Calvi Electric and Progressive Fence and Rail.
Exclusively on your home for the NCAA tournament. 97.3 ESPN FM.
Get in on all the action throughout the month of March with Madness Zone at the Gallery Bar Book and Games in Ocean Casino Resort. Take in the college basketball tournament with a panoramic view of all the games, a beverage in your hand, a bet placed on your favorite team, and an atmosphere like no other. Watch, bet, eat, and drink all tournament long at the Gallery Bar Book and Games in Ocean Casino Resort. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Ad paid for by the Sentinel Group. Attention veterans, active duty military, civilians, and contractors. If you were issued earplugs between 1999 and 2015 and were diagnosed with hearing loss or ringing in the ears, you may be entitled to compensation. The manufacturer of these military earplugs recently paid $9.1 million to resolve claims that their earplugs were defective, potentially exposing service members to damaging sound levels that could have resulted in hearing loss or tinnitus. If you or a loved one were issued earplugs and were diagnosed with tinnitus or hearing loss, don't wait. You fought for this country, and our attorneys want to fight for you. Call 800-678-9751 now for a free legal consultation and to see if you may be eligible to file a claim. Time restrictions may apply, and you pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. So call 800-678-9751 now. Again, 800-678-9751. That's 800-678-9751.
Yes, we do have availability. Those dates for how many guests?
Andrea's Boutique Hotel is the destination to tie the knot.
Oh, you want the whole property?
She needs an assistant to catch the bookings bouquets.
249 guests, huh? Oh, and 3 dogs.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
In business, everything your employees do impacts your brand, including what they wear. Cintas has high-performance workplace apparel for almost every job imaginable. From work shirts and pants, to polos and khakis, to Oxfords or T-shirts, these clothes move, breathe, and look great. Your team gets the styles they like, you convey the image you want. And Cintas service includes weekly laundry and delivery. To learn more, visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
O'Reilly. Replace your worn-out wiper blades and see the road better with help from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Right now, save $10 on a pair of Trico Force wiper blades. Old Rewards members get 4 times points and receive a $5 reward with purchase. Our professional parts people will even install your new wiper blades for free. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It's April, and you know what that means? Taxes are almost due. Jackson Hewitt can help you win tax season. That's the sound of your maximum tax refund. The sound of getting 50% off tax prep. The sound of many of our competitors' prices going up. And the sound of getting to your nearest Jackson Hewitt. Hurry in for 50% off tax prep before this offer expires April 9th. Limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right. You don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait. Text PLACE to 200-300.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
It's buyback March at Matt Blatt Nissan. So bring any trade because AJ the Trade Man wants to buy your vehicle today. AJ pays $500 more than CarMax. So you get more dough for your ride and then drive home in any new Nissan Nissan Altima, Rogue, or Pathfinder with 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, and 0 interest. Or take $5,000 off MSRP on every new Nissan Titan. And only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Have a job clearing $350 per week? We want to approve you today. And AJ wants your trade, but only at MattBlattNissan.com. Rate qualifications exist with approved credit. $27.78 per thousand financed on in-stock 2023 Rogues, Pathfinder, Ultima. Not all will qualify. Go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Or call 844-917-4758. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. $589. Sale price $31,774. Expires 3/31/23. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Hole.
Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, counting down the power hour here, your last chance to get on the conversation, just like Jeff and Ocean City and others have done at 609-403-0973 on the text board and your DMs in the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Vegas Seattle. And don't forget, in about 8.5 minutes from now is your last opportunity today to get in on the Eagles trip giveaway contest. Of course, you will call number 7. You will be a qualifier. As a qualifier, you must be present at Maynard's in Margate for your chance to win the Ultimate Eagles road trip giveaway. Thanks to Philly Sports Trips. Of course, Maynard's in Margate will host this year's Eagles draft party with Mike Gill and the Sports Batch on April 27th. And of course, your next chance to qualify for the contest is tomorrow morning in the 6, 7, and 8 o'clock hours during Keyshawn J1 next here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, so I promise I get to this, and I'm sure that there's somebody or somebody's I'm going to make very uncomfortable or mad with what I'm about to say. But I feel like this whole topic, this whole story about what happened last night with the women's championship game is the most ridiculous thing. And I'm honestly very unhappy and very disgusted and displeased that so many people in my profession, the media, completely missed the point on it. All right. So for last night, those didn't see, LSU was on their way to winning the national championship. And actually, it's the first national championship that men or women at LSU have ever won. Okay, which is an accomplishment in and of itself. You know, Kim Mulkey, she leaves Baylor after years. She goes to her home area, LSU. She leads into a championship. It's a big accomplishment. And what happens is that we spend the next 24 hours almost focusing on what one athlete did. Young lady, Miss Reese, decided to give the John Cena move to Caitlin Clark. Now, for those who don't know the history of this, Caitlin Clark did this in the previous round to South Carolina. And for those who don't know what the John Cena move is, you don't watch pro wrestling, you're not familiar with who John Cena is. It's the waving the 5 fingers in front of your face. It goes completely across your face. And you do it maybe like 1, 2 times. And John Cena used to be, used to say, "You can't see me," and then he would do his finisher move. That's where the origin came from. And Caitlin Clark was basically doing a flex, and Angel Reese was doing a flex as well. She wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary or weird. It's sports. It's competitive. If anyone's ever played sports in your life at any level that's above like pee-wee football, you understand that there's trash talk. Then Miss Reese gets up at the press conference and makes the statement that, basically people are basically saying things to her and about her that it wasn't classless, that I don't know, she's too ghetto, she was doing this for girls who look like her, and a bunch of weird stuff like that. And here's the problem. There's 2 huge problems with this, okay? number one, we as a society have to stop acknowledging idiots. Social media and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok have empowered idiocy and lunatics and whack-a-moles. And I'm using these words because I don't want to curse on the radio. So the fact that Miss Reese and everyone on ESPN and Fox Sports and every other outlet is talking about it is only giving power and attention to imbeciles. I don't care that David Portnoy and Barstool Sports have a bazillion people who follow them. Okay, the problem is that just because you have a lot of followers doesn't mean that we should actually care about what you say or think. The truth is, and I know people don't like the truth sometimes, is that entities like Barstool Sports have a clear misogynistic slant. Outlets like ESPN like to blow stories out of proportion for viewers and clicks and attention. And people at Fox Sports like to argue because they want to draw attention away from ESPN. This is how the thing works. So on the one hand, I think that the fact that everyone made a big deal about this is incredibly intellectually dishonest. The second part of this that no one's talking about is this is not a racial issue with Miss Reese or women's college basketball or anything. They peaked at 12.6 million viewers for that game last night. More people watched that game in total last night and on average than watch many NBA playoff games, than who watch many Major League Baseball playoff games. This is not a sexist issue. This is not a skin color issue. This is a college sports issue. For years and years and years, we live in a world where people disrespect people because of age and economic class and where they're from and all kinds of things that have nothing to do with skin color or gender. Miss Reese has been looped into a cultural war that most people refuse to actually engage in. And instead of actually engaging it, she exasperated. She poured gasoline on the fire. What was said about her on social media is what is said about a lot of athletes, and especially a lot of student athletes. Student athletes have been treated with double standards for decades. They have been manipulated, used, taken advantage of financially for decades. Image and likeness has been the only thing that has equaled out the playing field in recent years. And the reason why people feel like they can say these things is because they're quote unquote young people. If they didn't disrespect young people as much as they did, they wouldn't feel as comfortable saying these things. But because the people like Keith Olbermann, who's been fired by ESPN and MSNBC, people like David Portnoy, who basically oversees a company that has obvious, political and social and cultural slants and biases and basically promotes debaucheristic behavior. I'm supposed to take them seriously? That's the problem. We are giving power to people who shouldn't have a voice. And when people say and do the right thing, we ignore them. Because as Tom from the Villa said on the text board at 609-403-0973, we've all seen stuff in men's sports that are way worse and gets totally overlooked. All right, that sounder means caller number 7, 609-573-3776 is the call-in line, 609-573-3776. 3776 every day from now until almost the end of the month. You're going to have opportunities on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, Game Night with Josh Hennig to qualify for the Eagles trip contest thanks to Phillies Sports Trips. 609-573-3776. If you want to go on a road trip to an Eagles game this year, you got to call in, be call number 7. You qualify, you give us your information, and you must be in attendance at Maynard's in Margate during the Sports Bash broadcast on April 27th. Thank you for listening to 97.3 ESPN, and good luck. 609-573-3776. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll catch you tomorrow.
Health update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.